Resilience is emotional stability. People react differently to crises and traumatic experiences. Some people handle troublesome times in a calm way. They reflect their inner peace. Others, however, have difficulties coping with challenging situations. Thinking of resilience as our psychological immune system can help us understanding and building resilience. Similar to our physical immune system, we can support our psychological immune system, our mental well-being. It is not only our body that can be ill. Our soul might fall ill as well. We are used to caring for our physical well-being by paying attention to vitamins, a healthy nutrition, exercise, and sports. But how can we promote our psychological well-being? How can resilience be acquired? Resilience starts with the parents. The question, how resilient am I as an adult, is therefore essential when talking about the resilience of children. But don't worry, I've got some good news. Resilience can be trained. It can be acquired because it is not an innate personal characteristic, but a competence that can be gained in the course of our lives. This acquisition happens whenever experiencing difficult situations in our childhood or our adolescence. Also, certain behaviors and practices can help us learn to be more resilient. This means that everyone can develop resilience. To illustrate the explanation of what resilience is, I will use a metaphor. Some people react like a dandelion in traumatic experiences. Dandelions grow everywhere, no matter what the weather is like. They grow in sunny, rainy, and stormy times. Dandelions are resilient. Even when it is uprooted, it can grow roots again. Transferred to human beings, this means that dandelions can be compared to people who react calmly in rough times. We often say that such people cannot be disturbed from their peace. Other people are like orchids, which are very sensitive plants. Orchids only flourish under certain conditions. This example transferred to us as humans means that we can either react like dandelions or orchids in stressful situations. Different factors influence our resilience. Resilience is organized in the following 7 columns. First, emotion regulation is the ability to identify emotions and to modulate them. By that, control over one's own emotional state can be exerted. In close connection to emotion regulation is impulse control, which leads to a self-reflected and disciplined way of reacting to our emotions. The third column is causality analysis. Through causality analysis, reasons that cause certain situations can be detected and accepted. Another factor is optimism. Generally, people with a positive attitude are more resilient. Moreover, self-efficacy is important for resilience and deals with the question of how can I contribute to change something for the better. The self-efficacy of parents influences that of our children. If we as parents act self-effectively, we promote the self-efficacy of our children. Parents are role models, and children start acting with high self-efficacy themselves as well at a very young age, which is often really amazing. Moreover, self-efficacy is important for resilience and deals with the question of how can I contribute to change something for the better. The self-efficacy of parents influences that of our children. If we as parents act self-effectively, we promote the self-efficacy of our children. Parents are role models and children imitate our behavior. Often, they start acting with high self-efficacy themselves at a very young age, which is often really amazing. Furthermore, target orientation is another essential aspect. When absolutely focusing on a clear goal and having the strong intention to achieve this aim, it is easier to succeed indeed. Also, suffering from setbacks does not immediately lead to giving up on an aim. The last column is represented by empathy. It is vital not to confuse empathy with sympathy. Empathy means to understand others' feelings, while sympathy means to take part in others' feelings. Children do not need someone who confirms feelings, but partners who understand feelings. Empathy means a change of perspective in order to better put oneself in somebody else's situation. This leads me to an essential tip, which is to take dramas from the children's point of view seriously. Taking children's needs seriously is empathy. I'd like to continue with some other pieces of advice now. Have you ever tried to substitute the word problem with challenge? This replacement enhances a shift of thinking, whereby solution-oriented thinking and acting come to the fore. Writing down challenges you're currently facing can also be a good idea to master them. For example, how can I tackle an issue? When can I do this? Set a specific timetable or a deadline for such plans. Whenever you notice that something becomes difficult, remember that you are allowed to ask for help. Parents often think that they need to manage everything on their own. However, we should become more aware of our networks in our families as well as in our working environment and take advantage of such networks. Think about who can be your anchor, who can help in certain situations. Just try out asking for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. Asking for help and recognizing your personal limits is part of caring for ourselves. Self-care is often underestimated, but taking time for yourself, for your body, and your soul also leads to higher resilience. Allow yourself a moment of time just for yourself. Children and teenagers can accept that. 95% of what children learn is acquired passively by our function as role models. This means that if we watch our own resources, our children will follow our behavior. If we care for ourselves, our children will also start caring for themselves. We often tend to ignore crises or negative feelings, but we don't need to. We should accept our emotions, even though they are not positive all the time. However, we shouldn't be overwhelmed by them. Our ability to accept emotions also shows how resilient we are. It is significant to create a certain distance between us and our emotions. Well, but what does that actually mean? It means to accept emotions without identifying with them. So I can scream in rage, but I am not rage. I can be disappointed because I've talked about this topic a myriad of times with my child. I can be profoundly disappointed, but I am not disappointment. The way we handle our emotions reflects our attitude and our doctrine. Such doctrines accompany us throughout our whole lives. This is why we should overthink our system of evaluation. You've probably encountered this scene. You get up on the wrong side of bed in the morning, and one disaster follows the next. Belief systems such as, "Why does this happen to me again and again?" or "I'm always being unlucky," have an impact and shape us in our personality, in our everyday life, and in the upbringing of our children. So what? Let's actively create our lives. It is up to us to create the lives we want to have. We can change from a victim role to a creative role by adapting our thoughts, as well as by acknowledging and accepting our emotions. An acceptance of all our emotions is possible with only 3 steps. The first step is to take notice of our emotions. I feel sadness, I feel anger. The next step is to accept and welcome these emotions. The third and last step is the final aim, letting these emotions go. Again, this represents a change of perspectives, which we've already talked about earlier. What might be helpful in overwhelming situations that trigger very strong emotions is our breath. Whenever you have the feeling that you feel completely swamped, you can try this breathing exercise. Take a deep breath while counting to 5. Hold your breath for 3 seconds and breathe out while counting again to 5. When doing this exercise during a conflict, for instance with your kid, you will notice a change within your own and your child's behavior. Your kid will briefly pause and think, "Oh, what is mommy or daddy doing now?" And automatically the thoughts are distracted from the heated situation. It is vital to acknowledge that children and teenagers have reasons for their behavior. Behind every action, reaction, and situation, needs can be detected. Another aspect that might be relevant is where we put our focus. Most of the times, we primarily concentrate on what is negative. When thinking about situations, friendships, or relationships, what we think of are negative aspects, which results in a downward spiral. But looking at your child with a different focus, a focus on positive aspects, you will create a different and more positive image. And this image also influences our attitude because of a new view. Also, openly addressing these new observations can lead to optimistic, confident, and hopeful changes. By switching this focus from negative to positive, our belief system can be positively affected as well. Last but not least, all these small tips and pieces of advice can be collected in a bliss diary. In this bliss diary,